However, Brandon, we're going to move on into our last topic, and this is kind of a 2-week get the fire starting early for two teams that are going to play not this week, but I believe it's next week they will play, or their next game they will play, and that is Louisville and Clemson. And Lamar Jackson, this kid has been saying he's been good is selling him short. He has been, as Jim Rome would say, phenomenal. He is en fuego right now. Cannot stay out of the end zone, and he only needs 3 quarters to beat you. So I'm going to ask you the plain and simple question, Brandon. Should Clemson be scared? Should they be scared of Louisville?
Yeah, Clemson should be, because I think that you're looking at now, and some people can say they didn't think that Florida State was all that good to begin with. Well, I do. I think that Florida State just had a really down game, but at the same time,
Lamar Jackson took over.
I think that Louisville just is that good, and Lamar Jackson is just that good himself. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is, and Clemson has already shown that they're sometimes not necessarily in the game, and kind of mopey and stuff like that. And you cannot be mopey against a guy like this. You have got to be prepared. You have got to be mentally sound, mentally tough to take on a guy like this. Because guess what?
Hey.
You might be down in the game, but you're not out. You cannot think that. And I think that that's why Clemson really has to be a little worried, because of the fact
and
that
you might hit on all cylinders and still lose to Lamar Jackson.
But see, that's the thing, is I think that they need to understand, though, too, is that sometimes you get beat by the better team. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you don't want to think that you're going to lose. You got to go out there with confidence. That's the thing for Clemson. Are they going to have the confidence? Are they going to have the confidence to go out there? I'm interested to see how they do against Georgia Tech this weekend. I really am. And some people would say, you're crazy, Brandon. They're going to take care of business and roll over them. Well, Clemson won 59-0 last week in a shortened game.
And I got some beef about that. I got some major Kobe beef with that.
I want you to hold on to that for a minute.
Okay.
I want you to hold on to that for a minute.
It's a tease. Go ahead.
We
teased you.
But I do want to say that I think that Clemson, they really need to now string some games together here. They need to string some games together.
They got to win this game.
And they need to be ready for Louisville.
They got to win. They got to beat Louisville. They do. And what do you remember what I said last week when we were talking Louisville, Florida State? What I said about the winner of that game? Do you remember what I said? What the winner of that game would do? Guaranteed it. Put my Ricky Widmer.
That they would go on to be in the ACC championship game?
Basically, but I said they'd beat Clemson. Winner of this game, Florida State, Louisville, beats Clemson,
I can't remember exact things that you said from a week ago. I say a lot
of things. I guarantee a lot of things. I make
yes,
a lot
you do.
Of
you make a lot of promises.
Predictions. But I got some major beef.
Yes, please.
With this Clemson blowing out South Carolina, who gives a fuck? Because the reason is, as you guys are seeing right now, as of seeing this video or listening to this podcast on Blog Talk Radio, our top 25 this week for MVP are officially out. And if I take you through kind of the insides, the inner workings of the beast, myself, I had Louisville's the number 1 team in the country. I gave them a number 1 vote this week because they impressed me. I had Bama number 2. And I know Brandon's sitting there saying, you're a fucking idiot. And he may be right, but Louisville had him number 1. Brandon was also smart. You had Louisville ahead of Clemson. However, and I got into a heated argument with our own Mr. Anderson, Sean Anderson, because in his rankings, he had Clemson ahead of Louisville. And so did Mark, but I didn't get into an argument with Mark about it. I got into the argument with Sean about it. And here's my argument. Sean last week complained that everyone but me had Clemson way too high because they almost lost to Troy and they didn't play well week 1 and they're not that good. Will they magically blow out South Carolina State? And boom, second best team, third best team in the country. Here you go. Here's your spot where you should be. I say double not so fast on that one. And the reason why I say that is this young Louisville team went out there and didn't just beat the number 2 team in the country. They demolished the number 2 team in the country. The best tweet I saw from that game, they said, like the tweet said, watching Lamar Jackson is like when you make a player in Madden and put everything to 99. That's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
You just put everything to 99 and let him go. And you want to know the better thing about that? Someone replied to that tweet and said, nah, just Michael Vick from Madden 05. That's what he is. He is Michael Vick from Madden 05. That is watching Lamar Jackson on this football team. And with what I saw with this Louisville team and how they blew that number 2 team in the country out, I'm not mad that you guys, all 3 of you guys, didn't have LSU as number 1. Or not LSU, Louisville at number 1. But I can't get how, I kind of think Sean's a hypocrite, and I told him this, so I'm not throwing him under a bus or talking behind his back because I said this to his face in our text message. I said, you're kind of a hypocrite.
You said this to his face in a text message.
I would have said it to his face if we were talking in person, but I kind of called him a hypocrite. And the reason why, and I'll kind of talk you guys through it, and Brandon, you can kind of tell me if I'm wrong or if I've got a point here. I think it's a little hypocritical to say, I'm going to knock Clemson for almost losing to Troy and playing bad week 1, but then they blow out a shit team that they should blow out, and magically it's, oh, they're above Louisville because they should have blown out this team, and that number 2 team that Louisville played didn't impress me. It doesn't matter. It was the number 2 team in the country, and they blew them out. All I'm asking is you give them some respect. Give them some respect. I went full Stephen A on him. I said, no respect. He's got no respect, Swanee. No respect. And I know that's kind of a little George Costanza-ism in my voice. I'm very good at the George Costanza. But I'm off my soapbox. I just had to get that off my chest.
I think that, it's really hard when it comes to rankings, though, sometimes, especially for specific people when you do your own rankings. People get Kirk Herbstreit comes out with his own top 5, I think, each week, who he has in the top 5. People will jump all over him and say, what do you mean? Kirk, how can you have them here? Well, this is what I think. This is how I would go about it. This is what I saw. This is what I like. This is what I dislike. Blah, blah, blah. Here's my top 5. This is why I went with them. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Well, guess what? Everyone's a little bit different. So I absolutely see why you would do it the way that you do it.
Clemson beat a nobody.
But Sean too can do his rankings and say, hey, you know what? I didn't like who Louisville beat, so now I'm going to put Clemson ahead of them for this week. But after this next week, then maybe I look at, okay, now who they played and blah blah blah. I'm trying to see where he's coming from. I think that
the thing
Clemson for me, Clemson's got to be lower because they just blew out a team that no one knows about, and people are like, they beat South Carolina. No, they beat South Carolina's step cousin.
Yeah,
South Carolina State. So I think that for me, Clemson has to be lower. Louisville just beat the number 2 team in the country. Louisville has to be up there higher.
And I get that part, and the reason why I just said to Sean, I'm like, this is so hypocritical, is because of last week he's complaining to all of us that we had Clemson too high until I said, whoa, I had Clemson lower than you did, so slow your roll. He was bitching that Clemson was too high last week because they almost lost to a nobody. But then they blow out a nobody, and they're treated like they just blew out Alabama. Like, I didn't get it. When Louisville, like I said, blew out the number 2 team in the country. I don't care if you were sitting there going, well, they unimpressed me. They unimpressed you because Louisville was so damn good. That's why they unimpressed you.
Well, do you remember when Sean was saying how he wanted to have Washington in front of a couple of teams? Mm-hmm. Well, Washington hasn't beat anybody. They
beat Portland State this week.
Okay, like I said, you can't put them jump them over some teams who have beat somebody just because Washington's 3-0 and haven't played anyone yet. So that's where I think it gets hard to have teams higher in the rankings, even though they're undefeated. Who they beat? That's why right now we may have some teams that are 2-1 higher than a team that's 3-0 because the team that's 2-1 has played somebody. So I think that's where it starts to get a little tricky and a little dicey. But I think a lot of people, they think differently when it comes to rankings. And I think that's why each year and each person is a little bit different on how they rank a team. They'll look at losses. They'll look at the game. They'll look at who they had when they played them. They'll look at, they'll look at location. They'll look at this, that, the other thing. I mean, there's so many things that they will put in when they're looking at how rankings will go.
And this is what we'll end the podcast on. I know that this whole segment was, should Clemson be scared of Louisville? They should, because look at last week.
Yeah, I think we both agree on that.
Look at what I've been talking about for the past X amount of minutes with Louisville. The one thing I do want to end on, since we're getting into this ranking discussion, you know what is the most curious thing, or it intrigues me the most, because you guys send me all of your rankings each and every week. I like looking at the bottom. The teams that, because it's like 22 maybe, or 23 through 25, all of us have different teams. Like, for example, some of the teams that only like less than 2 of us had, San Diego State, only Mark and Sean. We had Boise State, only Sean. Cal, only me. Notre Dame, Sean had Notre Dame in the top 25. You had UCLA. And me, giving the only love to the Bison, go Bison, North Dakota State at 25.
Yeah, I thought about putting them in there for fun.
I put them right there at 25. Right there at 25, I put the Bison of North Dakota State. They beat Iowa. That was a good win. I think Iowa was 13 on our rankings last week and fell completely out of the rankings this week. Them and Notre Dame fell completely out. Yeah. Even though Sean wanted them to sneak back in, they only got 2 points because Sean was the only one. Not even you voted for Notre Dame. And you're a Notre Dame fan.
I couldn't. Not after the two losses. No.
But as we do every single week, before we do it, you guys tell us down below what you guys think. Should Clemson be scared of Louisville? Also, because we kind of got into this conversation, how do you guys view rankings? When you rank teams, what do you look for? Do you look at past weeks, or you just look at the week at hand? I would love to know what you guys think down below. But Brandon, it's that time of the podcast. It's Swanee's final thoughts.
Well, I think that we could really to the serious part of Swanee's final thoughts, I think, would be to keep it right on that and see what you think of rankings. How do you do your own rankings? Because I think that's really interesting, because I really do feel like a lot of people will do it differently, and especially when you start to get down into the low teens,
the bottom feeders,
or the high teens, I guess, if you're looking at it as like 19 is high teens, and then the low 20s and stuff like that. So I think that's really interesting how you guys do that. But then on a more not so serious for most women around the world, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
I heard that today at work.
Breaking up
today at work. One of my coworkers came in, and there's a lady that sits behind me, and they're the same department of my office, and she's like, "Oh, I had to tell you, it looks like Brad and Angelina." And apparently Angelina wants custody of the kids because there's rumors about marijuana and drug use being used by Mr. Brad Pitt.
Gosh, I wouldn't doubt it, but I think that this is really a blow for everyone around the world, because everyone really thought that this was a couple that would be a couple in Hollywood that works.
Yeah, it's a Hollywood couple.
It's going back to no couples in Hollywood work. Never.
Well, it's all about the business.
Will never.
It's all about
work.
the business in Hollywood.
Well, I think that that means, gosh, that must mean that there's hope for us, man.
Yeah, there's hope. There's hope somewhere that we'll find true love someday, Brandon.
Yeah.
That we'll find the big L. Right? That's what they call love.
We're finding the big L. Loser. Yeah, we got that.
But that is going to do it. Is that all?
That's what I got.
Okay.
That's what I got today, man.
That's going to do it for the Primetime Podcast. I want to thank you guys all for listening to the podcast, listening to me and Brandon, or Brand, as I like to call him. I never call him that, let's be honest.
You don't.
Let us know down below.
Start.
No, I won't. Let us know down below what you guys think of anything we talked about. Hit us up on Twitter at young_swan19 or youngswan_9. I screwed it up.
Young_swan19.
Boom. I had it the first time. I haven't said it in a while. I used to say just down in the description.
Just look down in the description.
Mine's easy, at Ricky Widmer. Go follow us on Facebook. That's down in the description as well. We got an Instagram now. Sean made us one of those, and Brandon's beautiful face is on it, so go check that out. Also, make sure to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. Just another way for you guys to help support the channel. Make sure we can do cooler things like maybe some remote stuff. I know there's an idea of us maybe playing basketball or running a 100-meter dash, but in order to do that, we need lapel microphones, and those kind of cost money. So check out our Patreon. You can get cool rewards for helping the podcast and supporting us. But that's going to do it for Brandon and myself. Thank you guys once again for listening and checking us out. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this MVP podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod for more great podcasts.